must have been about 16, 17 years ago. Somebody knocked on my door, my office door, saying, I just land from Tel Aviv, and we have recently joined the EU research. Must have been FE4 back then, a very long time ago. So I don't have the slightest clue what I should do, but people told me to get some money back to Israel, and everybody is watching me, so please help. And so we spent some time. I explained to him what EU research is. How it was different back then. It was, well, different. Certainly not as good as Horizon 2020, but after a while, I get the feeling he understands what EU research is, and a few months later the proposal came, it was evaluated, and it was evaluated to be among the best proposals submitted for that particular call. Well, since that day, I have a very relaxed attitude when it concerns Israeli participation in the EU research program. I just think that if they really want it, they will get the project. And if they fail to get the project, probably not a priority. So, but joke aside, yes, indeed, this is an aperitif. We will do a whole day, a much longer session on space and security on the 24th of February. So you are all already invited. I'm inviting you on behalf of Marcel, of course, who is going to pay for the lunch on the 24th of February as well. But I will be there. So space and security, that's what I'm going to talk about in the next 40 minutes approximately. So first on security, I believe Israel participates quite well in security research. Could always be better if you put priority onto that, of course. So on the security, before talking about the Horizon 2020, just quickly about the FP7, where security research happened for the first time. It's a special kind of research, this thing called security research. It is very security, mission-driven, connected, and so on. It's not about making big sciences, but it is about applying science and technology and knowledge to make people on the street more secure. We had in the FP7 about 1.4 billion, and just as a remark, about 20% of that money go to SME. So we did quite well in getting SME to participate. We have more than 300 projects and more than 2,500 different participants. Of course, the one or the other participant participate several times in the projects. And remarkably, EU funding counts for about 40% of the total public money in the EU dedicated for security research. So it has quite an important, what I call glue effect into that. It glues national programs in the area of security. There are about 9 EU countries that has national program in the area of security. It glues private initiative. And so by that, we are kind of a factor in making people that are typically good in this field to even become better. And I come back into that and how we like to do that. That's what I think somebody said, that's the side effect of EU research. But since it was the first time, this FP7, what we have learned is that we learned that the FP7 results in the area of security, they have been easy and quick to be integrated into product, or from that matter also into some operational concept. And it produced lasting benefit to the stakeholder and even to the people that are not directly involved in the consortium, particularly those that are related to the end user community of security technologies, security sciences. So, but then again, the lessons that we learn as well is that we need to go more in the area of independent testing and validation of the result. And we need to recommend that we need to connect the result even closer to the end user community. We need to give more effort in the large-scale initiative that have this visibility. In our jargon, in FP7, we have the so-called demonstrator, large demonstrator projects. And they are sometimes so large that people even think that they cannot afford not to participate in this project. So that is a good side effect into that. And because of that, we get a side effect that this kind of projects becomes de facto the standard setting, how shall I say, mechanism in doing something together. You have heard that there are three pillars in the Horizon 2020. I just want to mention to you that the space research that I'm going to speak a bit later is in the industrial leadership pillar, and the societal challenges is the home for security research. So you find this thing here. But first now on the security itself. Again, one of the lessons learned from FP7, and well, actually it confirms the thesis that we have right from the very beginning. Security research thinking started, in fact, shortly after 9/11, as the American call that, and it is a very societal issue. It is a societal challenge. We need to provide security to the people on the street. It is to the society. It's an important thing because we need to protect the citizens, the society, the economy, but as well as the European assets, infrastructure, services, and we know that the prosperity, the political stability, and the well-being of people depends on availability of security. Well, I don't have to preach this, because unfortunately you are very concerned with regard to security challenges. Perhaps in Europe, where we are so privileged to have that perhaps a bit more, let's say, on a day-to-day basis, I like to remind people, nevertheless. Because any malfunction or disruption, be it intentional, a terrorist attack, or accidental, a natural catastrophe, it has a detrimental impact with high associated economical as well as non-money, so non-material societal cost in that. On the other side, we also need to build up our capability to deal with security. And for that, we need the industry. But that is the sequence. It is being done for the society, and on the other side, we need the industry to meet that capability, to meet the vision in providing to this society the security what they desire. Because at the end, if we do not have the ability to deliver, if we do not have the ability on creating means to deliver the vision of secure society, well, that vision might remain a fiction. So I believe this is important that we have the means. On the other side, we need both, as I said. If we only have the means but not the vision, then the means will lead to actionism, and that's a waste of effort, surely. Security industry is indeed one of the sectors, according to a study that we commission, is one of the growth sector. By the way, globally, this is about 100 billion per year worth sector. The EU share out of that 100 billion is between 1/3 and 1/4 of that, so it's between 25 and 33 billion. So it's a very significant market. You should, of course, critically ask the question whether that is good news or bad news, okay? I leave it to you to decide on that. In any case, while we are spending that money, we need to strive for better efficiency, better impact of the money spent as well. Now, where can we do better? First of all, we need to overcome market fragmentation, particularly in the EU, and one of the tools for that is EU-wide standard. We need to reduce the gap from research to market by introducing new funding scheme, such as pre-commercial procurement. We need to better integrate a societal dimension by thoroughly assessing the impact of security technologies, security measures, and of course we need to look on the other side, the fundamental rights. So this is an important topic. I think you will agree that we need a societal level debate about how we do security, how we provide security. Security research in Horizon 2020, it maintains its mission-driven character. It supports the EU internal and external security policies. And let's just look into this external security policies. Of course, we have now the so-called Lisbon Treaty, and the Lisbon Treaty allow us to go quite a step further in supporting the external security policies. Now, we have the need to support the EU industry, or the industry in general, to be more competitive. We need to strengthen the involvement of the end user. We need to take into more account in the societal dimension. I like that piece. The societal dimension is important. And we need to include cyber security in a much more intensive way in the security research as compared to what we have been doing under FP7. You might recall we have the European Cyber Security Strategy. That's another important policy document that you should be aware of. Stakeholder involvement, the end user, is always important. We can only tackle security effectively if we get the involvement of the stakeholder. So we need to have the representative of the public and the private sector. We need to work together. And so the work program that we have written is addressing private company, industrial corporation, SME, but specifically we like to address the institutional stakeholder, the police, the fireman, the rescuer, and so on. So the work program is structured into 4 main domains. The Secure Societies work program is structured into 4 main domains. Disaster resilient societies is going to be receiving funding principally from DG Enterprise, managed part of the Horizon 2020 budget, plus some budget coming from the DG RNI, namely on the climate disaster point of view. We have fight against crime and terrorism. We have border security and digital security, which is going to be managed, that part of the budget, by DG Connect, plus some of the activity related to cyber crime, which we will fund from our part of the budget. So I'm going to go quickly through this 4-pillar. Disaster resilient societies. It is about safeguarding, securing society, including the adaptation to climate change. I come back into that because I think that's important. So the disaster resilient societies call, or the DRS call, is divided into subsectors: crisis management and crisis protection, disaster resilience and climate change, critical infrastructure protection, communication, interoperability, ethical, societal dimension. Let's just pick a few of these that is important for me to mention. Resilience, that word in the second bullet there. Resilience is, in my opinion, very important that we look into that we create the so-called, the idea of resilient societies. Because one way in looking into this security and resilience is you may just imagine one medal and you look at the security measures we do as one side of the medal and the resilience on the other side. The reason I'm mentioning this is whatever we do in terms of security measures, we will never be perfect, because at the end, at one stage, the cost of security measure might be extremely high. I'm not talking about the money cost, but also the societal cost into that. And so you need to create a society, you need to create an understanding in the society that if something happened, and something will happen one day, then your societal system does not fall apart into crumble. So we need to build up this resilience ability. So I believe that is an important, and that is another priority topic that we are going to address very strongly under Horizon 2020. We need to look into the ethical and the societal dimension. We need to look into, when we are doing whatever measure we are doing, that we take into account the cultural aspect. I think things being done in the Mediterranean are probably not acceptable to be when you are trying to do it up in the Nordic countries. So we need to look into that. We need to look into the ethical, the societal. Perhaps this goes a bit into the philosophical, but what I am going to mention, the ethical, societal dimension, you can find everywhere in the 4 chapters that I am mentioning. Quickly about the budget, the money, I think you also would be interested to see. This part of Secure Society will have 62 million in 2014 and 65 million in next year. This is, again, not to be read one by one, but this is just as reference, this and the next slide. These are the topics that are in the work program in the 2014 and 2015. You will find more about this in the different, more detailed level in the participant portal. I play around with the participant portal a few days ago. It's actually really good. I recommend you to click around there to just play around with that. Fight against crime and terrorism. It is about forensic. It is about law enforcement capabilities. It is about urban security. Then again, ethical, societal dimension. I mentioned that. I warned you. It's going to be everywhere. I had an excellent dinner last night, and I sat next to a professor that's dealing with this kind of topic, but more from the humanistic side. And I think he would be happy to see ethical, societal dimension in all these pillars that I'm showing. So 56.8 million this year and 44.3 million next year. And then again, these are the topics of the work program specific to the fight against crime and terrorism. Next point is on border security and external security. It is about maritime border, it is about land border, border crossing points, but also about the supply chain security, information management, and then, of course, external security. The second part of this is about conflict prevention and peace building. And then I promise you we will have ethical and societal dimension here again. So it is an important topic. For sure we will talk more about that when we meet again on the 24th of February. 20.8 million this year and 44.4 million next year. Again, these are the topics that we are doing. And since I am in a kind of a rush before lunch, you will discuss with me later on, or you will go into the participant portal on that. Sorry, digital security. It's addressing specifically a number of very important topics: privacy, access control, the role of ICT in critical infrastructure protection. It's about secure information sharing, trust, e-services, risk management and assurance models. So there is also a major cost related to that. And 47 million this year and 50 million next year on that part. These are the topics under digital security, cybersecurity, privacy, and trust. Now, I mentioned to you cybersecurity has become part of secure societies. The challenges there is, of course, how to assess threats in the cyberspace and their possible scope of that threats through the cyberspace, or in the cyberspace, I should say. We need to look into how to best tackle the cyber threat and protect the citizens in the digital domain. It's not only about the internet, it is also about those things that are not typically always connected to the internet, such as aircraft engine control system or other things, you know. In the old day, people blew up aircraft to have a sensation. I believe those of you that have some, let's say, fantasy, science fiction fantasy, can think that you can build in some kind of a some kind of a malware into the engine control of an aeroplane, which has the full autonomy these days, and then you say on a certain date, on a certain altitude, switch off engine or something like that, and that's, of course, is having a systematic catastrophic implication. Pre-commercial procurement, that's one of those things that we would like to do as a step between the research and the actual producing goods or producing whatever can be used to increase security. Pre-commercial procurement is not good for everywhere, but it is good in some area where innovative solution needs to be pushed, where we need to have a better connection between the researchers and the private sector, and particularly the area where we are going to have procurement by the public user, and we want to bring in that to be part of the so-called innovation cycle. And by that, we would like to bridge the gap between the research, the ideas, into the retail or into the procurement aspect. I'm going to skip this because I'm running a bit behind time. And just one more mention on specifically in the 2014-15, we have also a very specific SME measures there related to protection of urban soft targets and urban critical infrastructure. So we are doing, again, something special on SME. Timeline, the call is to open on the 25th of March. The call is to close on the 28th of August 2014. Just a reminder, it seems a long time, but don't try to submit your proposal on the last 5 minutes on the 28th of August 2014. The deadline is at 5 o'clock on that day. You have plenty of time to prepare it now. And then the outcome of the evaluation would be by the end of 2014, and the project hopefully to start by spring 2015. There is a very short time to grant, just to remind you, but I believe Jean-David is going to speak. Where is he? It's more about that. There is very short time to grant. We don't have contract negotiation as we have in FP7. We have contract preparation time, so that means, just to speak tacheles, if your proposal is not good enough, it won't get a second chance during the project negotiation like we had in FP7. We don't have that anymore in FP8, so you must prepare for a better proposal. So I am now up to space research, and this is the last few slides that I'm going to show before lunch. Space research. The picture is actually a bit more complicated on space research because space is almost everywhere. It is in the excellent science, and these are the topics that you might find space can be useful in this excellent science part of Horizon 2020. But space has its home base in the so-called industrial leadership. But then again, of course, space is very relevant. So space infrastructure, space capability is very infrastructure to other parts, such as societal challenges. We heard about bioeconomy before, so secure societies, of course, energy, transport, and then, of course, resource efficiency, raw material, and, of course, in the climate action as well. But in the next slides, I will concentrate into the space theme under the industrial leadership part. There are 4 objectives to the space program. It's to enhance the competitiveness and, very important to mention, the non-dependence and the innovation of EU space sector. Non-dependence, I mentioned, is an important issue. A simple way of saying non-dependence is ATAR-free, okay? And we want to enable advances in space technologies. We want to increase exploitation of space data. In Europe, we have tons of space data that are not yet evaluated. We need to better exploit those kind of information. We need to enable participation of international space partnership. Then, of course, we have the relevant objective in the different application of space, such as in transport, in climate, and in security. I should mention again, I warned you that space is more complicated because there is actually a relation, a binding relation that we have to give due consideration in that. Namely, in the field of space research, the action that the European Union is doing, it should be seen in conjunction with space research activities in the different EU member states. And then, of course, we have the European Space Agency. And then, of course, we need to look into what is being done, funded, so to say, by EU money to be in as a complementary action between the different actions there. This whole thing can be taken almost one-to-one as regard to relation to Israel. Israel, of course, has its own space program, and we need to see how to fit what we are doing with regard to what you are doing. And I believe your relation with the European Space Agency is there, and we need to look into this complementary of what you should do under the EU space activity and what you do with ESA and what you do nationally. I believe we are still away from having a strategy into that, and I believe we need that kind of a better understanding if we want to have a better participation coming from Israel in space-relevant research under Horizon 2020. We typically have a good participation in the area of security, my previous talk. In the area of space, I believe it can be improved, and I would encourage you to, again, come on the 24th of February, then we can have a more in-depth discussion about that. The Horizon 2020 Space Work Program, there are actually 4 main domains where money can be spent. One is the satellite navigation or the Galileo action. Into that, 144 million. The Earth observation, sometimes it's called Copernicus, very related to that surely. And then we want to look into the protection of the assets in space and from space. And then the 4th is on the competitiveness. So I will go shortly into the different topic of this, and then we will see where you can participate into this. So on the Galileo, the GNSS evolution, we have R&D, research and development for enhanced mission and services. We have the prospective research in advance of GNSS mission concept. We have R&D for enhanced surfaces. There are a number of topics there to be tackled on. For example, the Ionosphere Modeling and prediction, a very important domain if you want to have high accuracy of navigation. By the way, of course, Galileo is not only about navigation, it's also about timing information, among other. But the accuracy of the information, as you very well know, depends on the property of the ionosphere that lays between the satellite and us. We need to look into commercial surface performance, and then we need to look into the safety of life, and then specifically there the EU-US collaboration, and then we need to look into the signal evolution, the GNSS signal evolution. That is about 6 million euro. It's a procurement. It's not really a grant, but it is a procurement. GNSS, we need to prepare for the 2nd generation Galileo system. We need to look into state-of-the-art and cost-effective technologies. When we looked into this beyond current system, so beyond 2020 system, so and Horizon 2020 indeed need to look into that. And 55 million on that. And this is managed indirectly by the European Space Agency. And then we have the applications in satellite navigation. We need to look into the application size, and there are a budget of between 15 and 20 million for smaller projects, each about 1.5 to 4 million. And then we have a very specific SME-based application. So if there are SME that has brilliant idea about some, I don't know what, new application of satellite navigation, that might be interesting for you. Relatively small projects, and that could look and help you look into this domain. And then, of course, looking into the international cooperation of that size. And then, among other, the awareness raising, capability building, and promotion activity in and outside of the EU. You know that that Israel participates in the Galileo program, and so I encourage you to use the means coming out of the Horizon 2020 to even put you in a better position for the actual operational aspect of Galileo. The second pillar that I show you, Galileo is one. The next one is Copernicus, or Earth observation. We have coal-related topics of about 21 million there, looking into new ideas for Earth-relevant space application, looking into the climate change and the relevant space data. How do we reprocess and calibrate those kind of information, data? And then we need to have observation capacity mapping for atmosphere and climate change monitoring. And so that call was published in December, and the closing is already soon on the 26th of March of this year. Next is on the call for 2015. There we have 26 million to look into the Earth observation application to the market, innovation action, stimulating wider research use of Copernicus Sentinel data, imaging technologies from space, and that's. I think I should skip this because it is 2015, so we concentrate a bit on 2014 topic, space weather. This is an important, and actually I like this very much because, well, I don't like the what's going to happen if this is happening, but this is effectively looking into studying new ideas and data analysis for modeling space weather in view to enhance the performance of space weather prediction. And that's complicated word, and I ask my colleague dealing with this what is really behind this. It's really behind this is the sun flare effect. We, or I should say the Earth, is regularly affected by sun flare, sun winds, some people call that. It happened in the history of the Earth regularly. Last time it happened was about 160 years ago. And the question is, what happened back then, 160 years ago? Absolutely nothing. But what happened if that happened again today? An enormous amount will happen, because then our telecommunication will not work anymore. Probably your car, if you have a modern car, your car probably doesn't work anymore, and so on and so on. No television, no radio, no car. So what do? We go fishing, of course. But it's a serious impact, and also our capabilities, our police, our ambulances, and so on, all rely on this kind of technology that suddenly will be switched off if we have this kind of impact, and that is an impact that can last for days. So we need to, I don't know, what do we need to do, Marcel? We need to buy some fishing rods, right? Okay, that's a good idea. So we need to look into the space near to Earth, because there is an enormous amount of garbage up there. We need to get better understanding on what is flying around there, where it is flying, and even small thing can have very, very severe impact. So 8 million on the space weather, and on the other one. On the protection of the space infrastructure. We need to have the means to reduce the impact of space debris. Passive impact is what we are addressing under this topic, and we have 6.5 million here. And then in 2014 also we have the participation of the EU SATCEN in the Space Surveillance and Tracking Service function. Just as an anecdote, this part is going to be a classified activity, but Israel can participate in the classified part of the EU research, and the classified part of the EU research of the Horizon 2020, you find them practically in the security as well as in the space domain. Israel and the EU, we have a so-called security agreement, and that allow you to participate in any project like any EU-based organization. 1 million, so small. And then space surveillance and tracking, I'm running out of time, 2 million. 12 million for improving the performance of the space surveillance and tracking. And then we want to have independent access to space, 14 million into that. Strategic research cluster for program support action. Then we have the activity, which is looking into the more future possibility into looking electrical proportion. I believe Israel has quite some to offer here, and station keeping. About 4 million in that. Space robotic, and also Israel, I believe, has quite some to offer here, 4 million. In orbit demonstration, 2 million. And then bottom-up space technologies at lower TRL. These are brilliant new ideas, and possibly you don't even know where you are going to use this for, such as high-resolution imagery, radiation-hardened instrument, and so on and so on. So that's about worth 10 million. Space exploration, life support. And so we need to have this, that's about worth 8 million, and 4 million for science in context. And space exploration, habitation management, 6 million. And of course, we need to look into the exploitation of astrophysics, planetary and comet data. And that's 6 million. And that's it. On time for lunch. If you need more information, that's the website. And thank you very much, Marcel.
Thank you, Khoen.